All right, welcome, welcome. Thank you all so much for being with me today. Just was gonna had a couple of people asking about what works Clearinghouse and was thinking, well, what about doing just a little uh exploring of the website so people realize what all is there? And it has changed so much in the last 3 years. It doesn't even look like the same website that it did when I first started looking at it because they've really changed how the layout is and everything. So, kind of just thought, and they've added several things to it. So, oh, I see Rachel there. Good morning, Rachel. Uh, so glad to see everybody. I know I'm not sure if everybody's out of school right now, but I know it's time. So in 1 week we've got Christmas. So looking forward to that. Hope you got all your Christmas shopping done with that. But we'll go ahead and get started. But welcome. We're going to explore What Works Clearinghouse, the website. If you will, please sign in. And our success criteria for today is just to understand the basic format of the website and be able to navigate what they have are practice guides, their intervention reports, and reviews of the individual studies. So just kind of understanding the difference between the three and what those are. I'm going to drop in the chat the infographic that I'm getting ready to show you all so that you all can look at it and click on things. I'm not sure how that you might want to do that, but this is the What Works Clearinghouse infographic. Just what is it? And so it's actually from the U.S. Department of Education. It's a group that is the IES. What is that? Institute of Educational Services, I believe. We'll see that here in just a minute. But why they have it is it's the work of What Works Clearinghouse is going to it helps teachers, administrators, policies makers make evidence-based decisions. So everything that we are going to see has all been through research. And so looking at some of those best practices. And so a lot of us that have had to work with federal grants, this is where they will direct us. If you go to KDE's website, and if you look at the Title I website, they mention this website. Between this and Ed Reports, you'll hear reference to these a lot. And so as you take a look at the graphic, it says it reviews evidence of effectiveness of programs, policies, and practices by using a consistent and transparent set of standards. So all of this is on the website so that you all can go and peruse that and look at it. And like I said, part of the reason is a lot of us have not really had like any formal introduction to the layout of the website and how it looks. And some people had kind of mentioned that this might be helpful. So that's why we're kind of doing this today, kind of taking a look at who it is. But what I kind of wanted to make sure and really bring out is this: how it creates products, and they present findings on what works in education that are these intervention reports, review of individual studies, and these practice guides. And so we're really going to take a look at those. Notice it says over 10,000 studies that it has. Now I'm going to drop in the chat the next infographic. All of these are from the website. So if you want to bookmark these as something, especially, of looking at evidence-based practices and strategies, might be helpful so that you can get back to them, because I had a really hard time finding this. I found this one and then it took me forever to find it again. There's even like a little video. And so what we're going to do is we're going to break this apart and look at this in parts. And so I dropped in the chat for you this same infographic if you want to pull it up on your screen so that you can see it. But we're going to kind of just take a look at each one. So first, talking about want to find the evidence-based programs and practices in education, because we all know anytime we're using federal funding, we need to make sure it's evidence-based. And so that's where What Works Clearinghouse can be a big help. Personally, I think Ed Reports is a little easier to navigate and a little bit more user-friendly for us, but this has some really nice things for us as educators to go in and take a look at. And so one of those is those practice guides that help us identify and implement evidence-based strategies. And what I love about the practice guides, we'll take a look at that in a little more detail, is how it actually has the strategies. It gives you examples, and they have some really nice documents that very quickly you can go and find things. And so just want to make sure that we get to look at that. There's the intervention reports in the individual studies. So if we take a look at just the little summary that it has of the practice guides, they have all of these different documents that you can go. And let me tell you, this is not something you want to share with anyone and say, hey, I found this great document, because most of them are 90 to 100 pages long. So it can be a little overwhelming. And so you just want to make sure that if you do share this with your teachers, kind of maybe start with a summary like what we're going to do today, and kind of maybe just introduce bits and pieces, because if you do show the whole document of the practice guide, can be a little overwhelming, let me just say. So the practice guides are one piece. Another piece that they have are these intervention reports. And so it has a really nice report. Once again, they can be a little lengthy, so that describe the intervention in detail. Like I did research and was looking at different reading intervention programs. So you can search like, Read 180 and see what research is out there, or what is it, Success for All, those types of programs. And you can do some searches within this or in the next one, the individual studies. But it kind of lets you have a nice summary of some of the research and interventions that are out there. Notice it says it'll even give you some cost. And each one is a little different, but they try to follow a general same format, but sometimes not all that information is available there for you. So there's the intervention reports. And these, if you click, I'm going to drop the PowerPoint in the chat for you here in just a little bit. If you click, like you'll notice right there, there's a little hand. That's hyperlink to the infographic, so that you can get to these hyperlinks that you now have access to. The individual studies are just that. It's those individual studies. And I like this graphic because it shows that these journal articles are what help to make the practice guides and the intervention reports. So this is like the beginning of all the research. Yes, it takes you to ERIC. Most of us have memories of that. I don't know if you want to call it fond memories or not, but back when we were studying, getting our master's or a rank 1, a lot of us used ERIC for research. And so a lot of these you'll see will go to that website for us as we're looking. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about is, how are these practice guides, how can they help teachers? Because I know a lot of times we're working with a lot of new teachers, and I think you're going to see some things that are very user-friendly, but just knowing where to find those things sometimes is where the challenge lies with these. But this is another infographic that they have. Let's see, I do have this infographic for you, so I'm going to drop that in the chat for you so that you can look at it and click on it if you want. But it kind of goes through and talks about, what's so nice is each of these guides have kind of the same format. It has a key summary, it has these recommendations, they have examples, they have the key terms in there for you, the recommendations, like I said, and a system of evidence levels for each recommendation. Like, it actually will tell you, is it a strong, is it moderate, is it weak, or not good at all. So it does go through that. And one of the things I like the best is at the end, it talks about the obstacles that you can run into. Like, it will even say things that I myself have said as a problem, or another administrator has said to me, or a teacher has said to me, and it talks about how to overcome those. So we're going to take a look at those and do some exploring, because that's what this our session is so you can go through and explore the website. So this is like the top of the page. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat for you to go to the website. And if you want to follow along with me, that would be good. But there's a couple of things I just want to make sure and to show you Well, let's see if I click on my little thing. Well, looky there, it worked. Yeah, I love it when things work. It always makes my day. So here I am on the website. I just dropped in the chat for you the same thing, just kind of watching, making sure that. So if everybody's there, so you can see we can do some searches. There's the individual practice guides. Everything that's new that has just been released, you will see down here. So you can see December 5th, something was released, a new intervention report called Building Blocks. And it even gives you information of how this is all done. But a lot of your main searches are right here, these three: the practice guides, intervention reports, and review of individual studies. And then you also have the data from study reviews. So I'm going to click on practice guides if you want to join with me, but I want to pull up some stuff just so to make sure that you are aware. So we take a look at this, lots of information, little overwhelming. And you'll notice that there's a total of 29 practice guides that has the little check mark right here. And can everybody see my screen all right? Is everybody seeing the website good? Wendy, can you see my screen good? Okay, good. And you'll see that this one says tier 1. Now that's not the tier 1 like what we often think, but this is showing this is a strong tier of evidence. When it has this, if you scroll on down, you'll see there's tier 2, it's moderate. So not as great. Tier 3 is promising, meaning you can use it. It's got some promising features to it, but it may not be as great as some of the others. And then you'll go on down and then you'll see tier 4, and it'll have the rationale, but may not be what we want exactly. So what I'm going to pick on, since a lot of you are secondary, I'm going to go right here on the one that says teaching secondary students to write effectively. So if you want to click on that with me, and notice it's a tier 1, it's a practice guide for 5 through 12. So there's something in here for everybody. So I'm going to click on that and hopefully it will bring it up. There it comes. Now, right at first, I am a clicker. I will click on everything coming and going. But I want to kind of show you some things. There's a summary document, and then there's the full guide, which is, I think, 90-some pages. That's not something you particularly want to hand off to someone because they might just look at you and be like, oh my goodness, this is just too much. There's a details section. It has the 3 recommendations. What I like about this is you can say show more. And when you click on that, it'll take you straight in the document to that recommendation, which is great. Same thing for recommendation. But what I want you to look at is right up here at the top. It says details. So I can go right there. Gives me the little bit of synopsis just of what all's going on with this document. Has a panel, tells me who's reviewed this. And then it has related resources. Now, they don't all have this, but some of them do. Notice there's an infographic. So this evidence-based recommendation for remote instruction, we're not wanting that one. I want to look at this one that matches what I'm talking about. So I'm going to click on that and bring it up, and notice it opens it in a new window. So I still have my same page over here. So here's my strategies. So what's so nice about this? A lot of people don't know these exist, but it's like a little summary of what the practice guide is about. So it has the guide right there. You can click right there and pull up the 97 pages, but it kind of goes through each recommendation and gives you hyperlinks. I love that. So explicitly teach appropriate writing strategies using a model, practice, reflect instructional cycle. So it shows you the cycle that they use. A lot of you have heard of COPS when it comes to writing, that we utilize KWL. So it's pulling in a lot of things and has it all in one place for us. Also has the tip of the explicit instruction, the I do, we do, you do model that we see here. And so this is a summary of the whole guide. Now, not all guides have this, but a lot of them do. Now look at this, integrate writing and reading to emphasize key writing structures. So if I want to, it says using sentence starters. If I click on that, Hopefully it works because, you know, I love technology. It usually does. When I click on that, it should, these are kind of big documents, remember, it may take a second, which apparently it's going to on my computer, takes me straight to that page. And it talks about sentence starters right in the document. So this is on page 33. It gives me examples. It talks about using a lot of different writing exemplars. It gives me more. So here's the story impressions, and then it gives like different strategies that we can use. And these are all evidence-based because remember, these are coming from the research. And so they've compiled it and brought it into these practice guides. So look at all these examples and supports for teaching writing in secondary school. So if you take a look, it has all the little acronyms, a lot of things that a lot of us are using. I was looking at one of them, it had the do what, which was something that we've used. Talking about key features, form, purpose, audience, all things good. And then here's that one thing, potential obstacles to implementing recommendation in the panel's advice. So teaching, writing, and reading aren't central to my discipline. I have too much content to teach already, and I don't have time to develop students' writing skills as well. And I know we've all heard teachers say that. I've been one of them that said it. I'll be honest with you. And so here's the recommendation that they provide. It's saying they're not saying for them to specifically teach it, but to incorporate reading and writing to further students' learning of each skill. Many minor writing and reading activities and tasks can help us focus students' learning, but they don't require specific lessons on how to write or read. It's always good for teachers to model going through. That's kind of that I do, we do, you do model as well. But it goes through and it talks about each of the different obstacles. Notice that. My school teaches reading or literature and writing separately. How can I integrate reading and writing? So sometimes schools are separating those two into separate classes. So making sure we're still doing both skills in each of them. So that kind of shows you how nice, this is. So now I can hit the back button, takes me right back to my summary. So here's where I went. So that's my recommendation too. Use assessments of student writing. Notice it has on-demand prompts, graphic organizers. If I click on any of these, I'm going to click on on-demand writing prompts just because, you know. So there it talks about on-demand writing, graphic organizers. And what I love is they give examples. And looky here, we've got social studies example, philosophy, English language arts, psychology, science, history. So they're giving different examples of some on-demand prompts for different disciplines. So it's not just English language arts. There's math, science, visual arts. So you can look, and then there's examples of graphic organizers as well for them. So are we liking what we see so far? Is that looking kind of good? So that right there is just a summary guide that will pull you into the larger guide. I love this feature. Like I said, not all of them had this, unfortunately, but it does help immensely. Like if you're going to be talking with some teachers and working with them, it helps you to maybe make it not so overwhelming, but it really does a nice job. So notice here you can get to the full document. So there's us doing an I do. So now I'm going to go back to my website. And we're going to go back to the practices page. So let's say, so now we've done something for reading, writing, which actually covers all subjects. Let's go to this one that is assisting students struggling with mathematics intervention in elementary grade. So now let's do this together. Hopefully you were following along with me. Well, some of you might be wanting that prevent dropout in secondary. They had a really nice thing on attendance in there, talking about attendance, which was nice. I was looking at. So I'm going to go on to this mathematics one. Now, You'll go over here to related sources, which is where we found the infographic. You'll see this one doesn't have it. So we do not have the summary. So, but we can look here. Notice all of this is strong evidence. Every single recommendation is strong. I wanted to go to this one for show with word problems, because this is something I've been guilty of, and that's why I'm drawing it to your attention. I was a science math teacher, and so talking about word problems, I'm going to pull this one up. This one's probably going to take maybe just a little bit longer. What I love about this one takes me straight to that section. Once again, now we're looking at something for math. The previous one was for high school, 5th through 12th grade writing. Now we're looking at math. I believe it's for K through 6 was the grade levels. And so it goes through and it talks about teach students to identify word problem types that include the same type of action or event. So we all know word problems are not everybody's favorite, but we do know that's a lot of how the assessments are going is with word problems. So you can go through. What I love is some of the visuals it gives for our teachers and how this could be so helpful of like modeling for some of our young teachers, and then also helping kids, remember that I do, we do, you do, teaching kids about how to model and how to draw graphically when they're solving math problems. And so this is a great thing to go through. Teacher thinking aloud, that's a great modeling for students, gives that example. Once again, showing nice examples.
Mary, I can't help but to think about this TSI, I guess, the procedures we've been going through. We have 3 TSI schools in our district, and you have to attach the research, the whole evidence, and this would have been great. I knew this existed, but I didn't know it was this detailed. But yeah, this would have been fantastic because it's TSI, in math.
Right.
What we're working on so much, but I just wanted to throw that out there, but this would have been very, very handy for that, process.
Oh, thank you, Denise, for sharing that, because that's exactly, and that's why they keep talking about directing us to these websites. So being aware that they are here, and I was like you, Denise, I didn't know it was that detailed, like even showing the math models on that. And so I am right there with you, but I'm working to get to the one thing that I goofed on at times with teaching math. Let me find it here. So it goes through, look at that. It even has like a script for you and of what might be said by the students. Love it. So here's the one. Vocabulary. How important is vocabulary in all subjects? But what's tricky with math, we have to be very careful. And then notice again, it gives those obstacles of what sometimes we might say even ourselves of what are problems. But look at this. Examples of keywords matched to an operation and why they fail. So if I teach my students all together is always addition, here's a problem of where it's not. And so it shows the example of what the kids are going to do, because if they think all together, I'm always going to add, this is what they're going to do. But when you read that math problem, that is not the operation that we do. So excellent examples, and it's showing some examples of some key words that sometimes that we might say. And so that's the tricky thing sometimes with math, and what makes it a little bit challenging at times. And so kind of showing this as an example of why we may not want to say, oh, when I say all together, that's always add. Well, here it's not. And so that gives it a nice example for you to support that. And so these are just really good guides. So I'm going to give you, what time do we have right now? All right, I'm going to give you, what do you think, about 5 minutes? You pick a guide you want. If you are secondary, the dropout one I found was very interesting. If you're interested in that one. But some of these have some great little recommendations. But so now notice, how did we get here? All right, if you click on IES, that takes you to the Institute of Educational Sciences. I had it wrong, not services. Institute of Educational Sciences. So this is all under the Department of Education. And so they have all kinds of different websites, but if you will click on this WWC, it will take you always back to the homepage. We went right here to the practices. I kind of like this to look because it lets me see all the practice guides. Now you can always filter. If you want to look for something, if you just want to look at the STEM, click on the STEM, it'll do those only. It'll only show those 8. If I want literacy, if I want to get off of that and then bring them all back again, it'll bring all of them back so that you can go through and look. But preventing dropout in secondary schools, if you want to, whatever interests you, kind of pick one. And I want you to just take about 5 minutes. I'm going to set a timer and just let you have time. You can put your camera off, and I will, and let you just really sit and look at one of these, because that's kind of what I want you to do. I know you all never have time to look at things. And so that's what I want you to have a few minutes to do. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. And at the end of 5 minutes, I'm going to check back with you. If you want a little more time to look, I will give you a little bit more time. So I'm going to say 5 minutes. Gonna set my timer. All right, that was 5 minutes. Does anybody need more time to peruse the practice guides? Are you right in the middle of one and you're really not let go of it? I understand. Or are we good to go on to the intervention reports? You tell me. I am flexible. This is your time of what's going to be most beneficial for you.
Mary, this just gave me a whole lot of things to do over the break.
Sorry, Wendy.
That's okay, because I've had a couple of teachers ask just in the last week, I don't know what else to do. You know, right. I'm doing this and it's not working, or my kids are not moving the way I wanted them to.
Mm-hmm.
I need some guidance, and I have it now. I know exactly where to, what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
awesome.
Where, yeah, this
awesome.
is great. And like you, it was so daunting before. I'd get on here and just, I wouldn't know where to start.
Exactly.
So I close up and just move on. But
yes,
so thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome. Now, like I said, it's still a lot to take in. Now, you notice under related resources for some of them, they don't have the infographic, but here's the nice thing. They do have webinars recorded on here that they have done. Now, some of them are very short. Some of them are an hour long. Some of them are 2 hours about going through the guides for more help on some of these. So just kind of be aware that there is a boatload of information in here to help you on these different strategies and to be able to go through and look. But now I also want to remind you, like some of the recommendations, like some on this one, on the first recommendation, notice it says it has rationale. But it doesn't mean that it's got minimal evidence. So when you can hover over that, and it gives you, it's not being able to find the research that goes to this, but it is a recommendation. Notice it gives you a little bit of information on that. And one thing I noticed when I looked at this one, this is that preventing dropout in secondary schools. I noticed that a lot of those things that I was seeing when it came to attendance is very much what we see in Infinite Campus on some of those, what's it called, persistence to graduation, and some of those early warning tools that they've done. You'll see that some of that explains why they're pulling in some of the information that they are. So just kind of being aware of that. So now that's the practice guide. So just kind of want to make sure that you realize, now remember, this is developed by teams and it's utilizing information from the review of individual studies. So personally, I could just sit and look at the practice guides all day because there's just a wealth of information in there, very specific, very great interventions, evidence-based strategies that you can look at and be able to share with teachers, especially ones that are struggling with certain areas. And like I said, I really like the obstacles just because I've said some of those things myself, and it kind of gives me support of, okay, but yeah, I can. Here's a way maybe I can do it on this one. So just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Now, the next thing that we're going to take a look at are the intervention reports. And I'm kind of showing you the way I like to go into these and look at these, okay? And so I like to go from this point, because when I click on this, I can do a search here, but it gives a different look than what I particularly like. So I'm going to go to the intervention report. You're going to see it's going to have the same look as what we had before. And it's got this strong, it has the grade level, has all of that for you. And so now you can see, instead of 29, we've got 620 intervention reports, so a whole lot more. So you might want to do some filtering on these. So let's go to, I don't know, I'm going to just pick the first one, literacy. So I'm going to click on literacy, and I'm going to let's take a look at leveled literacy, because you hear about that. It's a K2. I've kind of done high school, middle, and now let's take a look at an elementary. And so it says tier 1 strong. So now when we look at this, we have a whole different look. And what we're looking at, notice, gives you some reading. You can download the intervention report, and they all kind of have that same look. I'm going to go ahead and hit download. And this is what some of us had been going to and looking at previously. The practice guides I didn't find out really about those till they changed their website look. I kind of overlooked those. And these have been updated, really, really nice, kind of goes through a summary, but notice they are a little bit lengthy. And so that's why it's nice to go to that first page on the website to kind of just get a look of this. Is this really something? And so this is really getting into the intervention. Notice it goes into specifics on the domains, and then it kind of looks very much at the outcomes. And it has, there's an infographic in this section to where you can go and take a look and get into more detail. It gets into the intervention details, goes into the cost for you so that you can kind of see how it is, and then it gets into the summary. And so a little bit lengthy. It gives you just a scope of the reviewed research, and this is pretty common for each. Tells you the grade, small group, and the intervention type, but it is a supplement. It's not their core. And we can kind of see that with this. So we can see reading achievement. This is good. This apparently leveled literacy intervention is working well for that. Reading fluency, it's promising. And then you can also see here breakdowns by race, by ethnicity. We can also see more on free and reduced lunch, English learners, and gender. And we can see some additional resources here. So now I'm going to give you, let's see how we're doing on time. Still doing good on time. Now I'm going to give you, yes, I would agree, Ms. Clevenger. Webinars would be great for a Flex PD option. Like if you have a teacher that is really wanting to look at a certain intervention and get some support, I could see this being a wonderful resource. And what's great about it, it's evidence-based. And so you're going to be getting, that is a great thought. And if you have a teacher that is needing some time, and you know your teachers, and if you're a teacher, you know what you're needing, you can go in here and find something specific to you that may help you with your practice. So yes, it's a wonderful wealth of videos, infographics, reading. I mean, and it's very much evidence-based, which is what we're needing to make sure we focus on. So great suggestion there. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes now. I'm not going to explore this one because we've already done the practice guide and it looks so similar, but now there's a lot more information. I am going to go find the infographic while you've got your 5 minutes that gives you the details about the intervention reports. And I'm going to drop that in the chat for you as well. So remember, how did we get here? We just went to intervention reports. And I want you to take a look. Now, notice how different this is compared to the practice guides. Remember, practice guides are pretty much what it says. It's putting it into practice, and it's guiding us to put it into practice. Whereas the intervention reports are that. They are reports on the effectiveness of it. And then when we get to the next one, it's the individual research that comes together. They pull those individual studies to make the intervention reports and the practice guides. And you'll notice on the intervention reports, it'll show the different studies that they've pulled to do those intervention reports. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes again to take a look at these. And like I said, I'm going to go find that graphic for you I meant to do that and do not have it. So I'll get that really quick. So 5 minutes starting now. Looking up something you're wanting to get more information on. All right, that was 5 minutes. Do you need more time to look? Now, remember, the intervention reports are more about looking at the studies and grouping them together and looking at, are these interventions, are they positive? Are they strong? And so I like this one because it does have like a snapshot, which is just a 1-pager. Then it has like the brief and then the full report. So some of them have that, some of them don't. And so just kind of looking at different ones, you'll see different features, but most of them are going to have this, how many studies, and then it's going to have this breakdown for you of whether it's a strong, is it a tier 1? Is it a strong practice or not? Or is it a moderate? Is it promising? So there you go. So does anybody need more time on that one? I did drop the link to the infographic for the intervention reports. So now, personally, why I started with the practice guides, which some people would say that was not the best way to start, because I like those the most because it has those examples that as a teacher I would want to see. And so those are my favorites. Now, I am a little bit of a geek nerd here, and so I do really like the individual studies as well. And so when we click on this one, this is what we're going to notice if it comes up. Now, our numbers have just went through the roof. Review of individual studies, and we can see we have a whole boatload more of things going on here. But now remember, these are individual studies. So there might be 3 or 4 studies on, a particular intervention that we looked at before that grouped together. Now we're looking at the individual reports. And so taking a look at those, we can click on these now. You're going to notice same look when we search. And this is organized by highest tiers for us. We can hit this just so that and that will reverse it. So if you wanted to go that way, but you can go to the highest tiers. Uh-oh. Yeah, they're gone. I can range it from grade level if I want. So there's different ways that you can do this research. So I'm going to look at this study that was looking at the impact of a first grade whole number intervention by group size. So if I take a look at this, it's a thinking about it. Notice it's one study, it's one review. And so we can click on our little menus here that say findings. And this is this one study that we're taking a look at. Sample characteristics. So we can see where this study was done. We can see the overall breakdown of what we're looking at. We are looking for eligible for free and reduced lunch 100%. Notice we're looking at suburban or urban. And so we're looking Hispanic with ethnicity or Hispanic or Latino, and races breakdown in male, female, English language learners. So it gives all of that information. And then here we can read about the study itself. Now, if I want to, I can click on this and go to the ERIC website, which brings back the memories of going and doing research for our research papers when we were in graduate programs, whether it would be for my master's or my rank 1. I've done many searches utilizing ERIC. And so just making sure you're aware this is the actual research. So now, so you kind of see how it all works together. And so if I go back to What Works Clearinghouse, I can see we've done all 3 of these. This also has general information, but these would be the 3 main places that you would search. Now, do you all want 5 minutes to be able to look at basically anything you want? Because if you want to do individual studies, because personally I do kind of like to look at those and look at the individual case studies of what was done and how the research was done. But what's so nice on this website is they've taken that and taken all the studies around certain interventions and made them into reports. And then they've taken those individual studies and those reports and made these awesome practice guides for us. So just kind of wanting to make sure, you know, that's the basic layout of the website. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can search. You can go to the resource page that is up here. And so when you go here, it does a different search. I always kind of like to start at the home page and just go to the practice guides and like looking at the listing and being able to filter there. You may prefer this. This kind of gives, when you look at resources, it has tutorials, it has webinars that go all through all of this information of this website so that you can familiarize yourself even more in depth and become more of a user of the website. Maybe some of you might sometime want to be an evaluator or a reviewer, and it even has information on that. So you can see right here. But there, you can see evidence tiers and resources, and even have the infographics by primary and your elementary and your secondary schools. I really do like a lot of their infographics. The resources for educators, here it kind of lumps it together, and you can see that it breaks it down into some different ways. So you might prefer this look because this kind of breaks it down. So if I click on assisting students K-8 in mathematics here, I'm at resources for educators, and that gives me the different videos and webinars for that particular practice guide. So it has all the practice guides listed. I personally like the home page where it shows me the ratings and I can look at each individual recommendation and then go from there, and it will directly link me to those. This kind of is a nice look that it kind of has all the videos and infographics and references here. So you kind of find your way of how you want to look and navigate your way through What Works Clearinghouse. But this is just a really quick, let's take a look. What do they have, so that you're aware of some of the really super nice information that they have readily available for us as educators. Now, does anybody have any questions or anything you want to share? Because I'm done with 4 minutes to spare. Woohoo! Are we good?
Thank you, Mary. This has been so insightful. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. So thank you for being here, and appreciate, as long as it's helpful. Well, hello, Mr. Moon. I see you there. Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Very helpful.
Good. To me, that's the main thing, and that's always what we want, is what, you know, is it going to benefit you and maybe give you some resources you may not have been aware of. I'm going to drop into the chat for you all. I love some of the suggestions. Thank you, Denise and Kim Clevenger, for mentioning about, you know, how helpful it was. Like if, Denise, you were talking about how some of those actual examples would have been, and Ms. Clevenger, how you were talking about it would be great for Flex PD. I think those are great examples of how that could be used, but I'm going to drop in the chat for you your feedback survey so that you can go ahead and fill that out for me. It should send you an email as soon as you hit submit. You should get an email from kvec.training@theholler.org with an ELIS certificate for 1 hour. Now, when you click on that, it's going to have some things filled out for you. I've already filled out the title, the ELA number, and my name, and that it was virtual. But everything else is yours to do on that one. And as soon as you get that done, we're all finished. And I hope you all have, let me go back to my PowerPoint because I'm supposed to finish off, right? Our success criteria was to understand the basic format of the website and to be able to navigate those practice guides, intervention reports, and reviews of the individual study. So I hope we can say we checked both those off today and are feeling pretty good about getting in that website and looking and having an understanding. And like I said, if you'll take just a second to fill out that feedback survey for me, and I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and that you all have a very safe holiday.